yen kwasi broni tim popa ene sentia wadi vaccination eba abibiman mu na family plan so so mpo no enhye ben ana kwasi broni hyehyeye e wo krom entia wadi etoa yen eba ne sen ana gay ati atese e wiase afana nyinara ene we se illuminati ene we se freemason ene we se sumwe mu ni nyinara ahyase firi he no broni tim po a wadi sa nyema we nyinara eba no de atoa abibiman mu no ene sen we entram so hwe wake up Africa kwasi da we ni kwasi da bia awia dumienu ekopem awia no mienu live on Royal TV e adwumadi a ofa poku dan koye executive director Edema Freedom Mind Movement and of Israel Nkrumah aye coordinator Edema Freedom Mind Movement no
ebeka me Kofi Kumi ho
na yesim konya na madi dwumadi won chiame na ensem bi atise no ye gina twekron so abakosem ene ntwere ahodro so na ede mo hu ba bia obibini ufiri enu mu a edro ene soma wo sombo na mabrofo sisi ache ebra so se call together twele kaye no etumi bam ne no ana hyase o Freedom Mind Movement dwumadi e say Wake Up Africa dwumadi so praso say ye fa dwumadi live on Royal TV so kwase da we ni kwase da bia awia dumienu kopim no mienu na ya de wo so adwenche na wasemmisa ye ano e dia ma Wake Up Africa abibiman moma yen sore
Siboni wa matia sai okroto wa matia sai amuna oba ye krum se oba betray ya nesu eche no to nipa eche no dia sansi akwanu mana 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 dia sansi okromoto wa matia
abuja me ma ha e ma kwa basadri edeba eye Royal Television video so na sabi jumadi a wani guso a wo hwe eye Wake Up Africa jumadi ana wani guso a wo hwe na Wake Up Africa jumadi de edakwase da bia ene di no premoto a na chese jumadi ahyase na premoto sa ansa ne be hyase no empanyifo mi bi na dada me ne omudi sa jumadi sa sampanyifo mi ni eni bi jumadi na chese ni Wake Up Africa na empanyifo eye wo fa poku dankwa a wo executive director de ma ikuwa Freedom Mind Movement ono ne ba Israel Nkrumah a ono so ye national coordinator Edema ikuwa Freedom Mind Movement empanyifo ene so abeka mensa afidie no maje makonya jumadi no yade eba besomo na yaji akonya na eneye kwasia dai ene eye June eye bosomi a etoso nsia ne da etoso aduasa ena eye eni na premo atu yatena si na eye Wake Up Africa yade ba besomo sabi sene ye ne da no yetoa so ene enso so asana dapuniti a ye be hwa kan ho asem no the horrific bloodshed by the Jesuits in history for the control of the world for the Pope yeah you been in pompon so 24 episode 24 ena ye bi no na last week of amayeti asese sa segment yi ye the health no eba last week na emeno o shase with the new chapter and economics enti sa topic ya definitely ay kan wasem no ne health side no of ajibaya bosome baya miensa ene na wotwe mienu ena odi aye ho adwuma chechirimu abosomu na ene ekone de yenko health ni bi onte vaccine empanie ne ehon nsem bi nemu vaccine no obate dwuma bia adi ewo ya mamuo ye dada brabomu sikasem ne ya biye mu no ofase emei kono eno ode ba betu yanim enti last week ofa jemre ode health ni wie no eno ma yehu se WHO for ayankrofobia aye vaccine no amuka kire yen se ene vaccine kuo bi ne even Ghana hakra no yen health Kenya minister for health kwa kabi nkofo kasa ye kire se vaccine no nanka eye papa o how bi anim ema Ghana hakra de ye panyin ne ka say vaccine no say wo a ebetimi abo ho ban be 11 months etie no afei yeda sorry ya yeti ya ne say WHO for asan ba say vaccine na ye wo no empo enkola awofo a manefo a ewo vaccine bi no ene sa manefo no so mo fa ya funu no mo wo a omo ma no a omo wu ni nyina no ewo heart omo wo akoma ho yare akoma omo nya akoma mu hawo a sa hawo no enya sam ketu akra we eye niema ofa eda na bi ma enimu a obi bi mu ano san ma yehu se ene eye vaccine no kra no WHO for abodoru ama ya kyerɛ sɛ vaccine no ɛyɛ haw na ɔmo kɔ meeting bi a meeting no ekogyina sɛ vaccine ɛyɛ COVID no time no WHO efunimu ama efunimu nti wantimi anyɛ mfa nneɛma gugu akwan mu yi a ɛma ɛno nti no etwifa ne so ɛno nti ɛnɛyi ɔmo mpɛ kwan yɛ bɛfa so ɛno bie kwan ma nkurɔfoɔ de ɛmu nduro ana mo pese o mo de kyerɛ enu betimi ama COVID no asane yare ne ade ti vaccine no kwa no nkrofo ama nkrofo ntimi anwo se na yeso mo wo no na no nti no sesei no o mo fa hyehyɛ mu akwam se na be ya WHO kwa ne benya sa tumi no na afei se yare bi limiti a ebe WHO fo nkwa e na behwɛ eho adwuma no madi na no ana ofa yi video ma eda na bi ma eye owi bia ye fe no David Martins actually says nsiamudie na call so no e Geneva Switzerland no eye trimopo bone ene mpanyifo bia omu wiase no omu trimopo se onbese omu di wiase ne boso ene de sian hyehyɛ ni bu akwam se be ya oman bia omatete oman bia etumi ase na ti omatete oman bia nsa gu na ti na omagye tumi oman bia wo se na be ya wo oman no se ya we bi ba WHO nkwa na betimi declare say there is a emergency obetimi declare emergency anaso obetimi aka say yare bia unity and into go and say the man no wo man no ni nkwan say wo man no be sorry say yare bi unity ntino agwe and say me use we nyira ofada ho edi eye ene na wotwe ema empo WHO panyi ejina o ka say enkofo a o ma sorry o mu no ase omu kutia vaccine no ofre omo ye fe ne sen vaccines enunti omu mfa ne mangu akwam no mo hwe pan asankrofo no mbetu omu susa na omatimi apia asankrofo no agu nchen na tumi abebi omu nsem last week ofada we nyina di enunu ana ofa Israel enso so adibi ebe mu a obema ye hu eye sikapudo a sa vaccine ko omaji agu ombotom ene ohawa vaccine no nipa ekuom ofai da video a ye ko India na je so e kamera say India no every 4 minutes o san India no onipa bako eto owu we aye last week of Israel e da madi e ma enu so yehu ye ene mpanyifo no atenase na o matenase ni se eye nsem akese e pa enti can we put you na me yi wa video ni fia na fe dwumadie no ntimi fanso mo ebia na woni fie na nso dwumadie opese okan na wonso ohwedie akonya wo ho akonya ne se obekọ abefo ntintanso na wakọ wake up Africa DH aya YouTube ene Facebook nyina no ohwehwe a dwumadie obenya ne live na nso waka ho bi sanso ena fa WhatsApp anase SMS message ebreme ode ba na jimre na makenkan e de amount number abefa so no 0206 519335 0206 519335 we number fafa so e bia na menje emre enkenkan enfa maw de pacho ne yemu bi wonu se visitation e de baso ye kan ye last week na ye san akabi visitation e de baso visitation e de baso no kofobia ene somenya e be kabom wiki ya we ni ya Saturday we ni ya visitation be baso no somenya ena kofobia anti somenya akosommo pon fo nyina mu nyina no wo be ka somenya ho na kofobia tafo bunsu enyinam mo amu wasaye yanim oyoko jumapo susen mo so safo ni nyina aha wobɛka kofoduafo ho ye kofoduafo ho na afa ye nyina no ya ye sa meeting na baabi a yebesia no venue no new life school ewo oyoko kuro abonten so any baabi a yebesia new life school oyoko any yebesia time no 10 no ni pepe na yase dwumadie no ase na onipa oba no ofa Israel ankasa na ɔne ne dɔm na eba ɛno nti kofodia ɛne somenya mpanyinfoɔ ɛne sɛ masom momboaboa mo ho yie na afei monhwɛ na visitation ɛnyɛ kama yɛyɛ ne saa no yɛnkɔ mpanyinfoɔ no ne na ɔmadi na afei dwumadie no yɛmfa ntoa so iya no akɔ aba megye sɛ biribi a ɛbɛkɔ yɛda boade ase boade ase okay okay aba no akɔ aba
mejo so
megye sɛ ahoɔden ɛwɔ hɔ paa
bibi adedin
ehyira boade ase ɛne sɛ of last week o ma yɛte yɛ sɛ ɛne o shifte wawie ɛyɛ health no side no na ni odi ɛkɔ economics menim sɛ saa bi ɛyɛ abusua fo a yɛne ɔmo di dwuma yi obia agena konwa esan sɛ messages a ɔfa ɛba no ano ɔden ɛno papa bi frɛ me ɔse onim dase yɛ nkrɔfo bi sɛ yɛ Ghana yɛ class no yipie no ɔfrɛ me saa na mse kɔ imepeki menim die nti asɛ na papa ne frɛ me no tim ko gyina akyire no ɔse onim sɛ yɛ nkrɔfo bi sɛ yɛ Ghana ha na ɔno deɛ ɔpɛ sɛ campaign ɔpɛ sɛ ɔyɛ campaign na ɔwɔ tumi ankɔbɛ campaign sɛ yɛn nim ne yɛ sɛ yɛdi Ghana ɛma yɛn na ɔman no yɛhwɛ ne yɛbu so ɛno nti ɔfa sɛ wɔna ebi campaign sɛ Ghana yɛmfa ma na hwɛ so na ɛnkɔ yie dia ɔma menim sɛ saa nso na ɔmo campaign ama wo na ɔma yɛ ready ɔfa pakyɛ ne ɔwɔ nɛnɛ fama yɛ ɛdase
bedase na dedi kan yɛbɛkyia ahwɛfoɔ nyinaa
ahwɛfoɔ gye so
nokorɛ sɛ ne yɛka sɛ yɛshifte ne de aba economics nti yɛshifte ne de health kakra bɛnam
okay
ansa na transition no atake place December 2022 Germany Berlin World Health Summit kɛseɛ bi ɛkɔɔ so a na yɛ World Health Summit ɛne WHO ɛna wɔn nyinaa ka wɔn ti mu ɛde baa sɛ wɔn bɛhwɛ ɛkwan a ɛnam so ɛna amaman etimi hwɛ COVID no yɛhyia no ɛne saa ahoɔden ɛde hyia ɛde tutu nneɛma na bɛ wɔn kɔyɛ appraiser na wɔn ahwɛ na afei daakye biara nso no deɛ bɛsi biara nso no wɔn atumi asɔ ano nti na wɔn bɛkasa wɔ summit na so na wɔn bɛ ahasa ɛna participants na wɔn nyinaa fifi all parts of the world na wɔn yɛ mpem mmiɛnsa ebi nso ka ho wɔn kɔ hyia no ɛna journalist bi ofi Canada Quebec ɔno nso ne entity a report ma ɔyɛ Rebel News na Rebel News wɔ baa no wɔn baa sɛ wɔn baa bɛyɛ undercover wɔn bɛdi di nkɔmɔ ne delegates ne bi but wɔn nda wɔn adi ɛna ebi hu because ɛyɛ saa no a ɛnokura wɔn pɛ no wɔn bi nya the 3 days no wɔn yɛ nhyehyɛeɛ no na kɔɛ ti sɛ ɛsɛ wɔn kan yɛ a mix of politics and health nti no na asɛ na nkɔmɔ bi hyia ha no a mo yɛ health COVID aba na ekyir asɛm a nka sɛ ɛte health ba we mix saa nti no ɛma ne dose kɔ dose kɔ na ɔkɔɔ no ɛna undercover enipa onyaa no di nkɔmɔ no wɔn ɛka German West African Center for Global Health and Pandemic Prevention a wɔn di no acronym no ɛyɛ GWAC a German Foreign Service for wɔn na fund nti wɔn nyaa no a wɔn di nkɔmɔ wɔ esumase
The main ceremony, you show the first picture.
Okay. And so the first picture of World Health Organization admits WEF orchestrated global lockdowns as part of Great Reset agenda. The picture, the first picture, no to so my offer and Frank Kanasem.
Indeed, Utia Siakas has him, you know, and a man called Fu Bisasa. Then you know, some orchestrating ya, a banner say, one of the church ya, and to be decision we buy it, and then we are seeing your local down. As I know, picture me the first video.
Okay.
The
first video of a say World Health Organization admits WHF, that is World Economic Forum, orchestrated global lockdowns as part of Great Reset agenda. Video no munya bu mai na abusuafo ya bi enhwe.
The World Health Organization admits the WEF orchestrated global lockdowns as part of the Great Reset agenda. The World Health Organization, WHO, admitted that the global lockdowns were orchestrated by leaders of the World Economic Forum as part of the Great Reset agenda for the world. The World Health Summit, in partnership with the World Health Organization, recently held a 3-day conference featuring 300 speakers and 3,000 participants to examine the global response to COVID-19 and future pandemic responses. A member of the German West Africa Center for Pandemic Prevention, GWAC, funded by Germany's Federal Foreign Office, confessed to an undercover Rebel News reporter that most of the policy decisions recommended by the World Health Organization, WHO, during the COVID pandemic were not based in science, but based on the political ideologies of the globalist elites. The GWAC member admitted, in the heat of the pandemic, most of the decisions were not based on science, like I said. They were just reactionary, anything that would help. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, we can tell that some of those decisions is not backed by science. The vaccines do not stop the spread of the disease, but now we know, he warned. InfoWars reports the GWAC member went on to claim that ordering people to comply with arbitrary lockdown orders was a good decision, but probably would not happen again in light of a new evidence that the lockdowns did virtually nothing to slow the spread of COVID-19. At first, nobody knew, so it was political, yes, but we think it helped in flattening the curve as well, he said. So a decision had to be made. Although we did not know the scientific basis of those decisions, people had to comply, and we think it worked. A lot of things that happened during COVID would not have happened from what we know now. People are much more prepared than they were before, he said. He also admitted that some scientific processes may have been sidestepped or overlooked by the pharmaceutical companies so we could have vaccines. Despite the many speakers and topics, the negative consequences or ethical implications of imposing global lockdowns were not discussed at the summit. These remarks, though maddening, are not surprising given the WHO and World Economic Forum's stated goals for the world coming out of the COVID pandemic are not based on science but control. Vaccine passports and central bank digital currencies as part of a social credit score system. Vaccine passports and central
video of a say no yakoshaba na we no menka ho asem bia isan say of ankasa ebe kum na odin chechiri mo ba nti yenko fa
me dase enti sanya undercover reporter no enya no on de ma samu bibia apdiaba na me na metra ha e ma mu hwe ya emeko anu wo enipa no a o undercover recover no na eyi nsem no agu ho enti me nsem no yenko ne second video eno na undercover no enipa kora no ka asansem ni nyina no ye be tie free na no second video
your second video no the revelations by the undercover rebel news reporter at the World Health Summit Berlin 2022 pacho we just have video in mind.
Most of the decisions were not based on science, like I say. It wasn't based on making the what? They were just reactionary. Anything that will help. Now, the benefit of hindsight, you can tell that some of those established decisions is not backed by science. The vaccines do not stop the spread of the disease. But now we know. First, nobody knew. So it was political, yes, but we think it helped in flattening the curve, as it were. And these travel bans, be it international travel or local travel, when we came to Africa, movement between two villages was not possible during the heat of the pandemic. So that was a decision had to be made, though we didn't know the scientific basis of those decisions. But people had to comply and think it worked. But now, the benefit of hindsight, a lot of the things that happened during COVID wouldn't happen. From what we know now, people are much more prepared than we were before.
Should the company should be still immune from being sued?
Immunity from being sued, yes, because I am sure nobody had the luxury of time to fully go through a rigorous scientific process. A lot of the time, maybe multinationals always have a business mentality. But for the benefit of that, I think everybody wanted something that would take us out of the pandemic, not necessarily the business aspect. I know there are other groupings that think people invented this and made money out of the populace. But in the way COVID was, we didn't have benefit that. It was for the general good. And that some scientific processes might have been sidestepped or overlooked so that we could have vaccines.
Know that lockdown was bad for business, were bad for children. Now that we know so much information, should we do the same thing for the next pandemic?
No, that's what I'm saying. A lot of the decisions was not backed by science. If we given how prepared we are now, if we are faced with a similar situation, the approach of the world will be different.
But when we look at all the conferences that they have during this event for 3 days, they talk about different topics. Diets, they talk about vaccine, the response, digital, but they don't talk about the damage or what we did wrong.
What we lost because of the pandemic.
Should we have at that at least one conference to learn from the history?
It will be important that a component have a respective view of how we responded to the pandemic. We need to look at it holistically. Economic losses were just too many, and we should be able to learn from that so that if we are faced with another situation like that, we can minimize the economic losses.
What should we do? Myself, I think we should separate health and politics.
It should be separated. Like they say, science and politics should be separated. Because a lot of the decisions that bodies are taken by the political class.
A lot of people say that hydroxychloroquine is actually efficient for treating COVID-19. Is it true?
in the initial instances, there are some physicians who are promoting it because they have evidence that it worked for them. But you know the politics of clinical trials. Say it didn't pass clinical trials, so scientifically you can't say it worked. These big pharma, the multinational pharmaceutical companies, they want something as easy as hydroxychloroquine.
Do you think it's because they were not making money from hydroxychloroquine?
They won't make money like if they have to produce vaccines.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, if they have to produce vaccines, no money.
You know me no video I go share you of Adaroma. O te blofo na o say we dey Ghana nipa na e kasa no. Na o kire nsem a eye first video no. E see we na get say WHO for any World Economic Forum for meeting omokoye no. E da di ma ye hu say COVID no nhihye ya ye di ba yi nyina nose mask lockdown. Then there almost any scientific base. World Economic Forum from penny for na this WHO for concern mu fa sa nema we nyina mu akwam na need scientific base bia hwe ni e tire say ampa it say de ba ye no eno na be ma COVID no e be ko anase e be brase eno de na eye kwa enti na ya mu hye agenda no mpese o mu ye eno ana papa no e kirim senti ahu adwene fia e tiny petima eno nti o mu de ba ye ne enam so enana omuchem over
nti se sanity dia e ba mi sai na Ghana ha se na wuken we be pipa ni hu na ni mo
oba ni bro for
se le bro for nche se
Ghana ni over
nti e ba mi sai e de be nyina so e na Ghana better for any scientists o mu so ka bi se lockdown yanko show second picture
okay the second picture no daily graphic 24th March 2020 halting COVID-19 spread, Noguchi abuse, lockdown. Part of my funny beam.
Yes, lockdown.
Okay. Daily graphic 24th March 2020 halting COVID-19 spread, Noguchi urges lockdown, mass testing. Part of something so.
Indeed, Noguchi for. Na tani who say based on science and the no dey na mu ya so mo ye ma lockdown ba ma e ho chi e Ghana. Next picture no daily guide 25th March 2020 lockdown now doctors urges Nana COVID-19 infects 68 3 dead medical supplies arrive. Pacho professor enunto so mai da hono
okay
nti we nyina mo ejina na lockdown so mo am colleague WHO ni ayi participant at the Berlin summit was it now was based on science because nearby and stop lockdown and now stop spread nti dey na mu jira so a mo ye president radio mo president etiko say lockdown
Ghana.
Next picture.
Daily graphic 27th March 2020 lockdown effects on citizens can't be ignored. President that's what professor
radio also the kind of Ghana has all home pa any person na work kitchen one na no mo duane ni pa do one bi abontin and they would lockdown na nyina ebetwintwa akwa mu no na person mo ntrase o mo nyede when you heard me be na enye no to aso no ni na azeze yi na ehun se COVID-19 no ye se Daniel yi ni ba se ye be say ewiase economy ye be ba since ababa yi nipa na yati nipa population so asasi so enje no de betumi agi akinye ho se entisa because in so buy no and adam no nyina di am nyina ku March the WHO declare coronavirus say pandemic no July class of the book aba actually the devastating effect of COVID-19 and no when we set ewiase home we do our ba hwe na ya kan ho asem na ayɛ te sɛ ɛnneɛma a ɛkɔ so seesei no sɛ wokenkan aborɔfo no bi wɔmafa no sɛ class 12 na ɔde no tumi ɛkyerɛ sɛ wɔsesa wiase no na aba abɛtena so na wɔakyerɛ obiara sɛ ɔyɛ almighty and powerful ɛnte saa biribiara ne yɛ ɛte saa na mmom class 1 ɛne wɔn ka ho World Economic Forum Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation ɛnneɛma a wɔn yɛ by way of the Great Reset no ɔbaadeɛ nsa ɛna ɛda so sɛ sɛne bɛba Antichrist 42 months sɛne de wiase hyɛ ne nsa a ewiase na mede hyɛ ne nsa no sɛ nipa na nyini ɛne adwuma na class 1 ɛne the gates ɛyɛ probably wɔn ankasa ne wɔn mu yin sɛ ɔbaadeɛ na de nsa ka wɔn mu wɔn hyehyɛ wiase no sei sɛnea ebe create an environment of totalitarianism a ɛbifiti Antichrist anaasɛ world dictator nti adwuma a wɔn yɛ no wɔn mu yɛ biribi ɛnfa ma wɔn mu sɛ yɛnyɛ tumi na yɛyɛ baabi ɛyɛ nhyehyɛeɛ a ɔbaadeɛ aka wɔ turo no yɛkɔ Revelation 13:4-8 yɛnkan yɛkenkan da sɛ ɔbɛma Antichrist no 42 months ɔde wiase bɛhyɛ ne nsa 3.5 years enti ne kyerɛ sɛ ɛsɛ kreti ewiase no wiase no sesa sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ na ɔno mmra no ne nneɛma a ɔde gu akwan mu no ɛbɛtumi awie pɛyɛ ebi no sɛ biribiara ne yɛfrɛ no free speech biom biribiara ne yɛfrɛ no privacy biom ɛfisɛ wiase no a yɛkyekyere no ɛyɛ surveillance tracking and control nti ɛno ho asɛm ne yɛde ba na sɛ mbɛka a revelation no ɛmo yɛnkae no yɛka sɛ bɛduru maybe yɛbɛma ɛne ɛwɔ asase yi so ahyɛsodeɛ wuni bi a wontimi ntɔ saa wiase no na ɔmo kyekyere ɛde ama yɛn sesei no nti no na yɛwɔ adwene sɛ Bill Gates no ɛbɔ tumi bi a wɔn no ɛde ba na mpɛ sɛ ɛkɔhwɛ the next picture
okay
ɛka asɛm bi
the next picture no daily graphic no the plain truth February 1934 is a world dictator about to appear and your question no first picture into so Emma Ofa
is a world dictator about to appear yes certainly even though publication that was the maiden edition of the plain truth na Herbert Armstrong ona ohyehyɛ and as one or two so many religious books tomorrow's world any make ka hu na ona no ohyehyɛ na otro in 1934 everybody ba say is a world dictator about to appear somewhere in post First World War Europe ekoba say a new form of dictatorship in Europe now one say one dey fight against democracy and communism then penifo one during this new form of dictatorship Mussolini of Italy Sansuna Franco of Spain and third one Adolf Hitler now fascism as a new form of dictatorship as a one leader and a merge will control the country was as spreading by way of conquering other states in their honor Herbert Armstrong a year of publication say and a very first calling winners or says will it be Mussolini, Stalin or Roosevelt any day it will who Hanuma or come in but now a 25 years is say Sani Bami say I'm the one Roman Catholic Church defenders of the Roman Catholic faith wɔn nyinaa ne Vatican wɔ kɔnkɔda ɛno nti akɔ sɛ yɛnkɔ the second picture so one look at one pictures no ba.
Okay. The next picture no the rise of a European fascist federation under the Vatican. Sa picture no embra emaye.
Enti saa leaders mmiɛnsa na woka Nazism na yɛ synonymous with Adolf Hitler. Saa nso na woka fascism na yɛ Benito Mussolini ɛne Franco the picture na yɛ from no. Omu nyinaa the three big defenders of the Roman Catholic faith because omu nyinaa ne Vatican ɛwɔ agreement. Enti saa time in the 30s no ne wiase no ayɛ bibi a wontumi nka asɛ bibi besi ɛbi mu ana 1939 Hitler kɔ attack Poland a ebi kɔ ama Second World War no start here. These were the leaders who had emerged in Europe fighting against democracy and communism. Nti wɔn mu ɛso ɛna ma Herbert Armstrong ɔde baa maiden edition of the Plain Truth February 1934 is a world dictator about to appear. And he said by 1934 ɛna no ne nsi so gyina sɛ yes a world dictator is really emerging. Na onya maaye no ahoboa class wab no mo ɛyɛ no ɛna ɛkyerɛ sɛ wɔn mu siesie kwan adɛnti na nɛ yɛ target obia kɔde ID card kɔyɛ it's all because the new world there will be nowhere to hide. Ntumi nfa baabia ɛnkɔnkosie ɛnka sɛ wo deɛ ɛnyɛ nkwa na yɛka wasɛm. Now yɛnka kakramfa Schwab ho. Klaus Schwab was identified by Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger in the 50s and 60s ɛkɔbaa sɛ na wɔn si Europe ɛnam Second World War na ba ɛkɔ na young people ɔmo te sɛ ɔman bi hɔ afɛ no America afɔbia na esi hɔ da nti wɔn bɛ organize summer school sɛnea wɔn bɛba yɛma wɔn ntitiɛ no wɔn hu the new world deɛ akɔ so wɔ hɔ de 2 years nti wɔn started na Henry Kissinger lecturer wɔ Harvard University nti wɔn yɛ ne sɛ yɛ every summer biara wɔn bɛyɛ international seminar na ne bi ɛna wɔ identify Klaus Schwab ɛde ne bɛɛ bi ɛna otraining no ne ne bi ehu wɔ ne mu ɔmaa ne special training ɛna ɛyɛ sɛ yo yɛde bɛyɛ adwuma na ne mu na Nixon ɛbɛyɛ president ɛna yɛde Kissinger kɔyɛ ne Secretary of State nti na ɛnyɛ akwan ɛtwe ne ho firi hɔ wɔde ne hyɛ wɔde Schwab hyɛ obi nsa ɛno nti 1971 ɛna Klaus Schwab yɛ sɛ ɛna wɔn nso the World Economic Forum ɛɛba ɔde ba wɔn aba expande saa Harvard International Seminar no a Henry Kissinger de ne fɔm no na de wɔn nso expande no atrɛ ne ntaban mu na akɔ ba sɛ additional to Kissinger was one person no a globalist pa ewiase nyinaa kambe yɛ ɔno na wɔasua wɔhyɛ de asua saa nneɛma no nti na deɛ we say person ɔyɛ no Klaus Schwab already ahyɛ n'animuonyam nti we starting the World Economic Forum no wɔtra sɛ ɔbɛsesa ewiase no sɛ sɛ yɛho sɛ shareholder capitalism and communist capitalism so ni it is a person create a new world bia ya merge ni nyina na ye baako enti no much as sanya ya man kwan no wa ye ni bi by yourself ya be your limitations big one no o man no backtrack ade bia wo ye enti na say na the American democracy kwa mix with China communism. This is the new world that Klaus Schwab no person will be say ewo eviase. In the way na 2020 an opportunity came their way. se sadia yetimi ama ya engineer covid-19 ewiase hu eto ene e dia ba ye de can ahead say economies of countries are going to be demolished and nipa be wu ene ni na so si pepe it is sadia ene ye seti ewiase no na se ye seti ewiase no a ye na communism and democracy when a new world a new fellow stakeholder capitalism nti enti class one say any order if you say shareholder capitalism afeli and communism so enti by itself no enti nko na ni bia enti maka we be the next 4 videos min kasa bebre ni na ye class swap the background and yefe first video third video no of Adiama Yesi and this is class swap no first video no emumai
story is truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems and supply chains will be deeply affected.
This is Klaus Schwab. He's the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, an exclusive organization for the world's most influential people.
Around 1/3 of the members are CEOs of multinational companies, 1/3 are leaders of international organizations and governments, and 1/3 are from civil society, forming a truly multi-stakeholder community.
His members include powerful heads of state, from Joe Biden and Rishi Sunak to the President of the People's Republic of China.
We are working closely together with governments from around the world, including all G20 countries.
This is a meeting of major world leaders who are deciding the future of the planet.
50 years ago, this German economist launched the World Economic Forum with a mission to transition the world to another political system called stakeholder capitalism.
In 1970, as a young professor at the University of Geneva, I pioneered the stakeholder concept, arguing that business should not serve only its shareholders, but all those who have a stake in the destiny of the company. As a consequence, I created the forum as a not-for-profit foundation.
Despite support from influential politicians and royals, Klaus Schwab has been unsuccessful in enacting stakeholder capitalism, but his network has since grown.
Over the last 50 years, I have further developed the stakeholder concept into a global business citizenship.
Klaus Schwab has now become one of the most powerful people on the planet, enabling him to finally fulfill his mission.
Today, the concept of stakeholder capitalism is
Klaus Schwab. Now, sponsorship ni nkofo a ewo amaman so ye mom scholarship ko school abutin bi ni ye nkofo a ye mom san titiye se ne be a ye mom titiye ye na ba mu a na ba di position na oye global class swap scholarships in the be root scholars any that area be ba ho ye ba sa area ho of amedase e be bree medase e ba ni indoctrinate ni abani abetre baby kese bi ni de wa hye na be advisor to government and you can hold na mo confuse aban no confusion I don't think am of a ocean near maybe a cause on say government bi ha ocean ade ya ultimate transit visa wo say and government ya dey we into own onim say ade we e ko boni na so obe ya ofa na ɛno ano so ɔbɛyɛ na kyerɛ sɛ ɔno no ɛnyɛ ɔno a yɛ nkurɔfoɔ bi a ɛkeka ne ti bom a wohwɛ bi deɛ yɛ ɔfa ɛwu na ɔfa wa na ɔbɛma ɔde wo bɛma yɛde ase to asoma
na yɛhwɛ the next video.
The next video no promoting stakeholder capitalism as basis for the great reset of the world.
What is stakeholder capitalism? In his blog and book, Klaus Schwab describes it as a socio-economic system that he designed from two existing systems. The first being shareholder capitalism.
Commonly referred to as capitalism, shareholder capitalism provides us the freedom to trade with the interest of generating profit for our shareholders.
The second system is state capitalism.
Adopted by communist countries, state capitalism imposes restrictions on companies' freedom to trade by forcing them to put the government's interests first.
In his book entitled Stakeholder Capitalism, Klaus Schwab explains,
from a system of shareholder capitalism, which prevailed in the West in the past 50 years, and a system of state capitalism that gained prominence in Asia and is centered on the primacy of the state, we should move to a system of stakeholder capitalism.
While Klaus Schwab claims he designed stakeholder capitalism from both systems, it primarily shares characteristics of state capitalism.
Like the Chinese state capitalism system, stakeholder capitalism places restrictions on the way we run our companies by forcing us to put the interests of a group of stakeholders first.
Klaus Schwab has undemocratically enacted a global transition to an authoritarian political system.
It's a funeral of shareholder capitalism, and it's a birth of stakeholder capitalism.
You have shown us the way forward.
And he proudly shares which system inspired him.
On the one hand, we have state capitalism. On the other hand, we have shareholder capitalism. So it's a clash between two systems. I believe that state capitalism in the short term provides certain advantages.
Instead of the state taking control, stakeholder capitalism provides authority to a conglomerate of World Economic Forum elite members who call themselves stakeholders. These stakeholders run large organizations, defined by Klaus Schwab as
governments, NGOs, companies and international organizations such as the United Nations and the European Union.
If I look at our stakeholders, we have business, of course, then we have politics, we have partnerships with many governments around the world, we have NGOs, media, of course.
Stakeholder capitalism provides the World Economic Forum stakeholders and their executive chairman with an unprecedented amount of control. Yet Klaus Schwab alleges stakeholder capitalism benefits all people and the planet.
All these stakeholders crucially consist of people and make use of the planet. It is no surprise then that they should want to optimize the well-being of all of us as well as that of the environment.
Contrary to Klaus Schwab's claim, the world's most powerful elites do not represent our interests, and they appear to value Chinese governance.
The international community is looking to China to continue its responsible leadership.
The World Economic Forum have a large operation in China, where Klaus Schwab runs his ominous Global Future Council to
explore emerging models of Chinese leadership adapted to a new norm of globalization.
And Klaus Schwab is often interviewed by Chinese state media, where he expresses admiration for their communist system.
I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years. I think it's a role model for many countries. The Chinese model is certainly a very attractive model for quite a number of countries.
Klaus Schwab has also built a close rapport with the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party.
It is my distinct honor and great privilege to introduce His Excellency Xi Jinping. China has made significant economic and social achievements under your leadership.
In this World Economic Forum address, Klaus Schwab welcomes Xi Jinping as a stakeholder to govern us.
We should join hands and rise to the challenge. I believe this is the best time for leaders to come together and work jointly for the world to become more inclusive, more sustainable.
According to Klaus Schwab, stakeholder capitalism is essential for making the world more inclusive and sustainable.
Inclusive means an economy that empowers people who are allegedly oppressed, and sustainable means a ban on fossil fuels to supposedly address climate change.
These crises have been fabricated by Klaus Schwab so he can enact stakeholder capitalism, a system he alleges is more inclusive and sustainable.
Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab video ya menu yakoshe. Klaus Schwab etre kwanya enam so a let's take wire stake kwanya enam so a let's take
So what is stakeholder capitalism? In his blog and book, Klaus Schwab describes it as a socio-economic system that he designed from two existing systems. The first being shareholder capitalism.
Commonly referred to as capitalism, shareholder capitalism provides us the freedom to trade with the
Wake Up Africa Jumadi and when you saw na Sabri of a share video. Na video of a share no Klaus Schwab video. Na Klaus Schwab edin komo chere kwanya ono she say what dina kunya we are no center stage no what take over na fe I to say ball no na what the captain band na what friend in for say mumra ne yemmo na we no the captain band ne nko for from no presidents big organizations WHO ya come asemi onu na be choose say koda no we enti sanga for na fe Klaus Schwab the gate in for and on your bobo no say amamu no waye no stakeholder capitalism and in wa fefe nkofo nti bia so bia meka ho aman bia meka ho na ofa chirema ma ye ho Klaus Schwab no ni dwuma bia wo du no eye of Philip prophecy a eye bonne kwanya esese omudi wiase faso na omudi nipa ekosa hihim Klaus Schwab e na kuro di enimu a onu na wotu sa na mon and Klaus Schwab said stakeholder capitalism obia emeka ho agana minim se ye ka say ye ka UNA ye ka ho ni nyina ye part of Klaus Schwab institutions a omudi run wiase no eno ni video of ama ye ko share enti Ghana ye na ye se ye ka ho a ye di atire ye obra eni nya ye etia obade over
the next
picture okay the next picture no the pandemic represents a part but narrow window of opportunity to reflect re-imaging and best and reset our world. Klaus Schwab but mufasa picture nto so mai
and the Sabia yanko next video me am see the videos when they main kasa they tell the story with the videos.
Video no transition to stakeholders capitalism via the great reset transition to stakeholders capitalism via the great reset, a real but narrow window of opportunity offered by the COVID pandemic. Video.
What is at the forefront is to create a new model, a new concept, a new definition of capitalism.
Often, Klaus Schwab and his stakeholders promote the Great Reset transition to stakeholder capitalism subtly.
The Great Reset initiative has a set of dimensions to build a new social contract.
Now it's time for our generation to define a new social contract.
And sometimes
we must reinvent capitalism.
They're more direct.
Every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism.
We are grateful for your leadership on stakeholder responsibility in accelerating the transition.
But this long-standing stakeholder, King Charles of the United Kingdom, has a different approach.
In order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model.
At the World Economic Forum's 50th anniversary in 2020, Charles spoke vaguely,
helping to transition our existing systems
and repetitively,
and accelerate our transition,
about a transition in our economy.
It is my greatest possible hope that you will join me this year in accelerating the transition to sustainable markets.
Instead of stating the transition is to stakeholder capitalism,
transition to sustainable markets and a net zero economy.
Charles explains the transition is to a net zero economy.
Transition pathways to decarbonize and move to net zero.
As the royals mustn't engage in politics, Charles speaks cryptically, using stakeholder capitalism slogan instead.
People and planet.
On 3 separate occasions.
People and planet.
The King shows support for ESG.
An increasing number of corporations are adopting ESG methodologies.
And making it mandatory.
There are now growing calls from financial institutions and companies alike to make disclosure mandatory.
After dishonorably and treacherously promoting the Great Reset transition to stakeholder capitalism on stage, his speech was made into another ambiguous promotional video entitled The Great Reset.
And the time to act is now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Charles explains,
inspired by the Great Reset's call to action, I called for a Marshall-like plan for nature, people and the planet.
He wants to
reset the ways in which we live.
The King is one of many powerful stakeholders colluding in the Great Reset transition to stakeholder capitalism. Other stakeholders include the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund.
History would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset.
The Secretary General of the United Nations.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
Some Prime Ministers.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
And the disruption is an opportunity for us to reset.
And their resident climate change propagandist.
This is a time for a great reset.
Modelled on China's decade-long shift to communism, the Great Reset is the name of our 10-year transition to stakeholder capitalism.
It's a time frame repeated throughout the Great Reset's initiatives.
Britain to impose petrol car ban by 2030.
As explained by Klaus Schwab.
A social contract to transform our world by 2030.
And confirmed by the King himself.
With 2020 being seen as the super year, kick-starting a decade of action for people and planet.
With our decade of action for people and planet, as Charles puts it, becoming achieved by 2030, we're over 1/3 of our transition to full stakeholder capitalism.
By ordering us to close our businesses, the stakeholders created a recession that's accelerating the speed in which machines take our jobs and our wealth shifts to them.
After 50 disappointing years of supporting Klaus Schwab's vision of transitioning the world to stakeholder capitalism, the Great Reset now provides Charles some hope.
Nearly 50 years of trying to champion this cause, I cannot help feeling that finally we are ready to change our trajectory.
And after 50 years of failing, Klaus Schwab's lifelong vision is finally coming to fruition.
I imagine the conversations back then, in the context of the 70s and the 80s, were freer markets, trade, liberalisation. I assume that was your agenda.
From the beginning on, this was very much devoted to social and, I should say, environmental issues.
Today, the fourth industrial revolution provides this tyrant an opportunity to inflict tyranny that's more extreme than any past fascist regime.
Abusia Bibia of Amami no question Klaus Schwab. Great transition. Idea that's no a great reset. Na wahu mpanyifo a ene Klaus Schwab edi sa dwumadie we yehu eye ene Britain for hene a wote Britain akonya no so King Charles onu nana okasa e wo forum na se a chese eye na ni so eye na ni gese beye over 50 years say anyama mo de gbu akoma se sa dwumadie eye great reset betimi abema entumi memu a o se aye ne dadwe aye ni how na nei enam Klaus Schwab so amene abebe din amene de eye adwuma yehu President Clinton yehu President Bush yehu Germany omo mami ya wako no ofin so yi kese mpanyifo a omo nyina first video ni tira se mu nyina mo meka ho na dwumadie ni yentumi ye video ya ma ye ho mpanyifo a we wiase nyina no ene omo ne Klaus Schwab ene ahwibuma omo de sa great reset a omo se covid no ene bi sa kwan no na ene great reset no abeda kwan we of video of ama ye ko hwe ye ebia obi video ana wa se minim se ebia wa nya bi ahwe wo be hwe yo sabi oti asori dem wa ju se ye se Jesus bi ba o twen obi sa na so fo ni ka kire mu se Jesus ba na eti yan twen oye go ha bi wa ni se obi pfi eyinim woni na bofo no mutete mponkoso na mponko ni se omu watabanyo so omu wodenyo onu na oba wọ́n ní ibi akwan ma eguso koso se na moka ho asem no mo se anu beba ansa Jesus beba ansa na se na ba no ene se yi dwumadi na Klaus Schwab di a oye enti Jesus no owai awa ma be fa wan kosoro o da so ti asori dem na so fo guso kasa asem we kire programming ebie wani abi waso na fi wahu ni a ekoso e wo wiase e fa pe ene betimi di we amaye yen ko nchen na on to aso
the next picture.
Okay. The next picture no COVID-19 the great reset. Sa picture mo fanto so mai.
We book a Klaus Schwab. Oni we bia. Ye fiano Thierry Maleret or Mutuary. Almost published in 9th July 2020. Meanwhile, COVID-19 no March 11 and as a March 12 the WHO declared say a pandemic. Until March, April, May, June, July, and a book you buy one thing. Try senior COVID we buy. I be say we are senior ninety. When we the great reset. You hear this video.
The next video no. Of I said young channel. The great reset, the fourth industrial revolution and job losses. E pa cho mo fa sa video no to so mai.
Industrial revolution and
Merely 4 months after COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, Klaus Schwab published this book, COVID-19, The Great Reset.
His book proposes a broad array of changes to our political, societal and economic systems, as well as an increase in government control.
While we were locked down, Klaus Schwab also launched his ambiguous The Great Reset initiative, which we discover is to transition the world to stakeholder capitalism.
The World Economic Forum is now very much engaged into this initiative of shaping a great reset.
Throughout all the Great Reset's ambiguous content, such as this promotional video, Klaus Schwab makes no connection to our imminent jobs crisis or stakeholder capitalism, until he launched a private summit called the Jobs Reset.
Welcome back to the Great Reset on day one of the Jobs Reset Summit, which is being held as COVID-19 is not only wiping out jobs, but also changing the way millions of us work.
And the World Economic Forum's managing director declared our jobs crisis on the Great Reset podcast.
World Economic Forum Managing Director Sadia Zahidi.
In the last few years, I think we've seen the growing threat of technology to jobs. By 2025, humans and machines will be at par in terms of how those tasks are being divided. And about half of their employees will need reskilling. In every single job, there is the expectation that at least 40% of the core skills in that job are going to change. Now that is a massive number for most of us to absorb. It basically means that roughly half of what we're doing is going to look different in terms of the tasks that we do day to day.
I'm delighted to welcome you to the Great Reset Dialogue on harnessing the fourth industrial revolution.
In this discussion, the host asked whether the Great Reset has anything to do with jobs.
The big fear people have about the fourth industrial revolution relating to their jobs, their concern is that there will be casualties of this revolution, and that the idea of a reset is really about resetting them out of the workforce and replacing them with robots.
And this stakeholder, the CEO of Black & Decker, replied,
The fourth industrial revolution had been slowly wending its way into global supply chains during the 4 years since Klaus Schwab published his work. And then the Great Reset came along. COVID-19 struck. All of a sudden, the digital revolution accelerated, and it's clear that countries, industries, companies, and people with the requisite resources and skills, they will emerge as the big winners, and the gaps will only widen for those that are under-resourced or under-skilled.
Initiating the Great Reset, the stakeholders closed their businesses to accelerate our transition to a jobless economy, as explained by the president of the World Economic Forum.
Studies show that in the early days of the pandemic, the world leaped ahead 5 years in terms of digital uptake, accelerated these technologies only in 2 months.
And demonstrated by the growing number of us who have become homeless.
The number one reason why people lost their home is because they lost their job. Dr. Margot Kuchel at the University of San Francisco conducted one of the most comprehensive studies on homelessness in nearly 30 years.
So what they told us is they literally had no way out. They had no transportation, no phone, they had no money. They really were stuck.
As our wealth shifts to the stakeholders, growing poverty will make us vulnerable to tyranny, providing Klaus Schwab the power to enforce stakeholder capitalism.
It's very clear that the devastation from the pandemic could be felt far and wide in terms of livelihoods, in terms of people losing their jobs.
It's now a historical moment, a crucial moment to rebuild the future, to reset our policies.
But just how vulnerable do we become?
Fanama yakoshena video we ekasa afa eyemi buka COVID na mu ansana COVID ni be unity no ochoye na buku no akire kwan a obefa so a enyuma ose enyuma enti robots taking enyuma na mahu se enkofo de da street so enkofo luso enyuma na afi egu fi o metete na muntimi ntua ho kabiem untimi ntua light untimi ntua water abeda na watena fi enim chomu nyina fi sisi o metete ekwan ho mabɔ tent omo car si ho opake ne car ene wabɔ tent ne suitcase ne bag esisi ho we ene niema ofase ye hwe ne yehu nia enam kwan so a eba Africa ye nya hu hwe ye Ghana ye nya hu hwe ye niema eba no ane odin ehu pa na ye mo boye ho ofa eda na di ama ye hu
Ghana ye hu bi ye hear the next picture
yo ofa the next picture no Daily Graphic 21st June 2024 7.3 million Ghanaians face poverty, have no access to education, health, employment. DSS reports. The
Great Reset the next picture.
The next picture Bill Gates, global leader of tomorrow, 1992, and Justin Trudeau, young global leader, 2005.
Klaus Schwab, I identify young people when require responsible positions. Or starting with a program of Global Leaders of Tomorrow, 1992. Bill Gates ni na ekobi. Yana na me da be man yuko na ebi akwakudu obeka ho asem bi. Na de no me kan say ɛna saa nkurɔfoɔ nyinaa bɛnya responsible positions a wɔn na ɛboa ama yɛ reglobalize the world no deɛ Klaus-Schwab pɛ sɛ ɔbɛɛde no wɔn nyinaa nsa wɔ mu a yɛde hwɛ yɛhwɛ last video mɛka ho asɛm bi. The last video no ɛyɛ the World Economic Forum globalizing the world with young global leaders to shape a more inclusive and sustainable future. Mufasa video no mai.
There are some people who claim we are now in a deglobalizing world, but actually, I would say we have to reglobalize this world.
How did someone with an ambition to transition the entire world to a Chinese communist system get all governments and influential organizations to carry out his plan?
When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
Since he founded the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab has been targeting ambitious young professionals and educating them within his Young Global Leaders program to become ambassadors for stakeholder capitalism. By harnessing his powerful network throughout the deep state, Klaus Schwab then places them into positions of power. He explains,
"We integrate YGLs into processes that allow them to have a real impact on global affairs."
One YGL Klaus Schwab is particularly proud of is the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.
He was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets.
Once he penetrates the cabinets, Klaus Schwab's young global leaders are required to
inform and influence decision-making and mobilize transformation,
with an unsurprising mission
to shape a more inclusive and sustainable future.
So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet or even more are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. And it's true in France now. I'm with the president.
Here are the heads of all G20 countries propagating the stakeholder capitalism slogan at their 2021 annual meeting.
Recent years, you've had Vladimir Putin, you've had Xi Jinping, President of France, the Chancellor of Germany, leaders from all over the world. To get these leaders, do you have to call them and say you're personally invited?
No, usually the presence is the result of a longer friendship in certain cases. For example, Mrs. Merkel. There was a young member from Eastern Germany appointed to the cabinet as environmental minister, and we made her a young global leader. And I could go on and on.
And his young global leaders are dominating other sectors. As Klaus Schwab explains,
they are CEOs of Fortune 500 corporations, in royal houses, in leading NGOs and national non-profits, public figures in civil society, sports personalities, and more.
Here are some young global leaders who are executives at
Virgin, Dell, Microsoft, Blackstone, JP Morgan, General Electric, Reuters, EMI Music, Ben & Jerry's, Ford, Siemens, Puma, Motorola, Yahoo, Sony Pictures, Amazon, Hyundai, Avon, Estée Lauder, Barclays, Lehman Brothers, Hewlett-Packard, eBay, Goldman Sachs, McDonald's, Alibaba, Google, Nestle, Viacom, Salesforce, Skype, Nokia, Avis, Expedia, McKinsey, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook and Meta, OpenAI, BlackRock, Pfizer, Wikipedia, Black Lives Matter, PayPal, Uber Eats, and more.
After indoctrinating CEOs and ambitious young politicians, Klaus Schwab has captured most governmental, non-governmental, and Fortune 500 organizations.
video of a mammy no show me yamasimi me hunya meka biom class wa papa we so ye bron samuel say on now see ye bron samuel see anemo say hina o minim nya meka biom because papa we eba nyama djuma dia watini bia Angel Merkel Germany chancellor our officer no o na bofra me pa cho enyuma ku Ford ene social media na me no nye teso no de ebi bia ni ho a ene bia anya class wa boba eti wa peti omu nyina chese aduma ko ben ena yese we wiase a anya class wa boba ena control ene bia o say government ni enti do Macron France na bofra Argentina na bofra chese mobo chese na Ghana ha me catch me the say see me back and pain because of papa me di na tinti Ghana ha class swab me ba me bi yem pani fo no enti na say government be bia no government bi e wi ase be bia no wa penetrate again enti Ghana ha me no ye kasa yi me no kasa me opa mo friend be bia na mo evidence because we have the evidence na kasa Ghana ha ye bi wo wiram enti kaza class of Omanbia bo and then some control Omanbia we now fa amayen o so la ko tran so dem so for ben and ba betire we amayen ye ba so wi ase oni a wo shami abusia eyo fa pe and betimi ama me no wi anyway me ye ma se me woni amenka bi ofa mbacho last word na
me de class of the ha oba de na ho de a ye be call Bill Gates ono so ne hihye Manuel si kwakumi dase
ofa abusuafo no nyina dawase ne awodi aba na ye be kan message 1 or 2 bi na fi ya shifte Okoro watching you live from Ejura. My greetings to you Mr. Host and Mr. Israel and Ofa Yao the coordinator. Shalom. Good afternoon, my brother and grandfather, but I don't understand parts from sweet and perfect analysis. We can't use them in practice. Beautiful Sunday to you. But the fact is that there was nothing like COVID, but they were just saying it to deceive others. Nana Abuaji Tremudi Shigin, thanks. Okay. Good morning, Shalom. My name is Gideon Ahini Eje from Sumum, Mr. Kumi. So, do these people know that there is supreme being who will judge them after they die? It baffled me why some people are doing evil things like that. This world is full of evil. Yeah, Israel, bless and help your people. Okay, yo. Good afternoon, the three wise men watching live from Sehi. Is Sam. Please, I had only one shot of the COVID vaccine and I have regretted. Please, is there any remedy to cleanse my system? Thank you. Yo, the number. I love this program so much. Keep doing it. I sit on my TV now. When are you coming in Takoradi for meeting? I am set. Then yo. Good afternoon. Wake up Africa. Please, how can I join your WhatsApp group? This is my number. You say the truth. Okay. A professor you do nebusia, you dey try your waba. Your bar, your hon your better also.
Siboni wa matia sai. Okroto wa matia sai. Amuna oba ye krumse, oba betray ya mesu. Eche no to nipa. Eche no di asase akwanu me. Akwanu mana di asamu. Akwanu me. Aquanumana biasamio, aquanume. Aquanumana biasamio, aquanume. Aquanumana biasamio. Tosigoni wamati asae. Okromoto wamati asae. Amuna oba ye krumse, oba betray yamesu. Eche no toniba, eche no diasase aquanume. Aquanumana biasamio, aquanume. Aquanumana biasamio, aquanume. Aquanumana biasamio, aquanume. Aquanumana biasamio. Okromoto wa matias, Tosigoni wa matiasae. Okromoto wa matiasae. Amuna oba ye krumse, oba betray yamesu. Eche no toniba.
Wake Up Africa Jumadi ana wani guso sabri a wo hye na pempenso a yedu no eye ofa Israel pempenso libreso na aso no eno nti yensa mere kura yenko ne ho na ne ho no yento aso Israel mo akwaba ndio so ko you said we are boko yeah come on modern e wo ho papa ye do bo ade ase life is good sabri pempenso adu no de me dia Jumadi ni nyina e ma enko power me menda enko kofodua okay oka won yeko yes any dom ye bapa ye ko hia ko fodiafo yes de ye ko so no amanfo na ehu nan biblie no a hwe program no o maboto in some way tin Ghana ase no enye no na US for no mo ye no in some way te ewo aso dem na radio so TV so political issues for Israel mabo religious issues no still radune mabo the papa no omoye some time ago the can say Kofi Annan no the green revolution green agra green edeba ama obuka say omunti ase ebusan for no e be give the mom no na crossra bia no the post no the Kofi Annan video bi ba kwa no Kofi Annan ni ono clash wa Ghana ha say papa no tru ko for ama e bi de pege na say what are you doing? Oh, you are. Come on. Could go upon Chroma. Or one of the Schwab students in the really? Yeah. Some I can catch you. Say, I'm to prove I have a mom. Oh, and you know, do man no aid, you know. Massa. Yes, when to meet that come. When I say, yes, sir, what transfer them? Obu for the guy. Freedom movement for the in himself. The US economy. Into no or more or more so mere or material papa will say no. About boom papa. If I come look at the country, cover the no. It's papa will say. Say me and what? Yeah, so any abusia. So what I said by the year 2030, the be as an area. The no be some jobs that render useless. Yeah, kumi. I am not the beer, so we leader. That's or shake or who the other bar. Good. And yet you advantage. I'm telling you. The hands of a bro was so then catch a play when young Brazil doing Nasi. The way was a yow. Before yow. Until see and then ever. Train. No, I can't. Say never. Now, a man will say now, African for no, you will problem kakra. And say, there are problem. You can say, problem. You can say, yeah. Yes, we are committing Christian. You create UN. Not the WHO. A shame. To me, the motion I am for so. To go on board. I am for so. Educo no can say be ebano. Na obi yale a oh, doctor. No, ya papa ya je say we dey repair on hospital cornerstone obenya adro ama o le no ho akọ na the WHO for no na Ghana Ministry of Health no eji o bi papa what's here media for no the WHO for the kan into the correct omo committee and omo say ya sense ko no yale a che covid be kwa no beba pandemics yale be kunu pe beba oyenim asemo hunu it say say na tell dia yama igwafu na for monsa na shase yes signature say eba say yale bio a ekunipa eba o na mpani o to Ghana no mo a man kahwe konotum Nigeria mampani konotum America mampani konotum say the way to for the make say ya no bia ba mampani no kasa oni ayi neba na dia ba no eba uye bidwe for minti ni na mpere ho ka say bia no wa na duro asato opare ne nkofo adama nko minti ni uye bidwe doctor that's what they say ya no bia ba that's how pro ko pa no bia ebokun uye mampeni that's what say bia ya no bia ba ne yempa bia o mampeni e ba hawo
samato
yeah it's from some shafie
enyentum
thank you
enyemra
na enye se bia bibia si WHO from kwa na wutumi ya say ya na ba no educate a pandemic ya say binya anodro da me wiase
kwa dibiba
asema kwa ni
nwanwa
say ya no bia ba ayi kunu pa so me nka
o man fu
na man panu ha di
se ya ye bia mai
ya
we bi ni so a o di tra ho di na hwe
na nko for me
because you nim now you be yes o na wa dura
baby
asema e beto no
o na misa kwa shafe na e tu me no ama WHO for
ken kan ma amu se ampa yes o kan keke
kuni kwa na ka say ebi e chena ye no bi ba e be pandemic obe dey hunu ye
obe dey no hunu ye and last week of a video ni na me hunu ye amu se fe no BBX X
ka contagious eba to je ko a ere ko an kana de yo ere ko an kana de yo me ka de ba no ti okay
I say global leaders unite in urgent call for international pandemic treaty we SCA 30th March 2021 news release Geneva, Switzerland. 25 heads of government and international agencies come together in extraordinary joint call. New treaty would signal high-level political action needed to protect the world from future health crisis.
That's it.
Topic heading yes okay, the international community should work together towards a new international treaty for pandemic preparedness and response to build a more robust global health architecture that will protect future generations. One leader said in a commentary published today in several newspapers around the world, there will be other pandemics. There will be other pandemics and other major health emergencies. No single government or multilateral agency can address these threats alone. The leaders say in their article, the question is not if, but when. Together, we must be better prepared to predict, prevent, detect, access and effectively respond to pandemics in a highly coordinated fashion.
Quantum. Until you say, actually, and sa aguachi. Oh, just 2 minutes. The power that control the world.
Inipa boni.
Yeah.
Maybe I nipa do on a boni muno. I was sort of adding.
Now,
and yet Jesus.
Yeah. America, my different brigade, the wife. Some of them didn't buy no. Them say, "Omonia drew in your vaccine." The vaccine, no man, announcement say, "You may come from what before no." And sana abrofono, that our abrofono. Yeah. Now, I said, "Monsieur, I know well, I say, say you know so about no. A whole vaccination no. And before this, yes,
yeah, vaccine.
You get know. No customer say.
Onye ni packet wa mama no. Melinda Gates. Okasa
na ebi na tumi a wa Africa no so. Okara nchena onukun ja wale. Yeah,
okay.
Also vaccine na ba no. A buyer for black people. Enti mo amon no, nka je tire mo. Mo
nguso wo.
Mo
ja nguso.
Mo
Yene kan ya asem.
Mama na ka se yo. Anche de na buy yo. Nukura wa ntem tunten.
Enso ka che before say you be wu ti say e be kakra no before you be wu dida. Je egwa so, no so. Yo. Yeah, Melinda Gates suggests frontline workers and black people should get COVID-19 vaccine first. Before to that, before. Yes.
This is a question.
Yes.
Why blacks?
I say Melinda Gates suggests frontline workers and black people should get COVID-19 vaccine first.
Who should tell me?
Earlier this year, Trump and yes, sir. Okay. On the heels of Trump's decision, Bill and Melinda Gates, co-chairs of the Gates Foundation, are providing funding and direction on how to navigate COVID-19 vaccines. Time reports that the Gates Foundation has pledged to fund the Vaccine Alliance with $1.6 billion over the next 5 years to ensure that vaccines are available to people all over the world, regardless of income. In the midst of protests against police brutality and racial injustices against black people, Melinda Gates understands that both police brutality and health disparities reveal systematic racism. What happened to George Floyd was brutal and horrible and should never happen to anyone, anywhere. This is a moment of reckoning in the United States. We all need to really pause during this time and learn as best we can from it. Even before we saw this senseless death. Okay. Yet say no, okay. We are seeing black men die at a disproportionate rate. We know the way out of COVID-19 will be a vaccine, and it needs to go out equitably, Melinda told Time. When asked when needs vaccines the most, after healthcare workers, Gates told Time that black people and people of color need vaccine the most.
Before say
abusua afaizai ena amayen akenkan sema yetia enkrofo na ye enkrofo a class swap ebi omo edi juma na reset na waye no woni nyina ye ne mofra wato mo bi abonten a ene omo ye mpanyifo wiase amama horo so a omo di juma ena ekasa no wase bi before yenye se ye den yo na we unia usia unia no na usia asese o tretre no o briefing no o manahu ye wo ho a no aka kire o se fioko unia oka Jesus tiase Jesus abem Jesus liwa na we ni nyina ba betwe en wasia egusu kum na ne abobokra ne se obekwa asori de ne kwa de merciful no abotiti asori dan na no a Christopher na mo na mo wo ne dodo ne be he ne bisi
hwɛdeɛ sɛ yɛyi obi na bɛyɛ na mpanin a ɛno nkyerɛ sɛ ɔnim biara o no ntim yie paa yɛyi ɛtɔb no yie na mpanin a na bɛdi ɛno mu a nkyerɛ sɛ ɔnim biribi biara ɔmade fɛ no Uganda mpanin a ɔno fɛ no Yoweri Museveni ɔyɛ one of the longest serving president in Africa ɛna one doctor bi fɛ no Dr. Ngari wahwɛ yɛ sɛ ne maa no ɔrewu Uganda o ɛman nso no bebree twa wɔwɔ na ɔnyɛ no biara mfa ɔmpanin no ani nkɔmmɔ na mebɔ odwa na sɛ nka ɛkɔyɛ health minister kontumi nka kɔsɛ ɔmpanin na apɔnte no adeɛ a ɛwɔ mu no ɛna nya bɛdwa no sɛ ɔmpanin na deɛ mɛkasa wona to wei mɛka madwe akyerɛ wo na wɔhunu sɛ WHO fo na madwe matoto match no all day ɔbɛtumi bua yɛn ɔmo good side ɔmo bad side na nneɛma a WHO foɔ ɛyɛ no a ɔmampanin no dɔm no ɔban no moagye to na mawɔka mmɔ mo no ɔmampanin mama wɔ history ɔmo sɛ WHO foɔ ɔmo yɛ kɔdie mu ɔmo yɛ dangerous first video ɔmo yɛ hwɛ adeɛ
abusua ɛpa so ɔmo fa video no ɛni ma yɛ na abusua ɛnya bi ɛnhwɛ
sɛ Dr. Yoweri Ngari
Your Excellency General Yoweri Museveni Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, and the distinguished guests. It is indeed a pleasure to be here again to discuss matters of national importance and matters of importance to the sovereignty of Africa. This time our concern is WHO. WHO has been the cornerstone of the advisories on medical care in Africa for a long time, and WHO has done many good things for us. But WHO is also doing some very bad things that I would like to bring to your attention. We cannot afford to trust WHO anymore, Your Excellency, and I'll just mention a few things that have caused great concern to us. In 2014-2015, WHO brought tetanus eradication campaign in our country. It was a campaign to eradicate neonatal tetanus, babies who are born who eventually get tetanus. And the vaccine that was used is a different type of a tetanus vaccine that is a fertility regulating vaccine, where they take tetanus and combine it with a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin that supports pregnancy. And when you inject a woman with that vaccine, she produces antibodies against that hormone and therefore is rendered sterile. So we are noticing an increase in the number of infertility cases among young couples who you examine and they are normal but cannot get children, or couples who are losing 3, 4, 5 pregnancies before they can carry any pregnancy to term. We were able to expose this, and we have even published a paper that is available. And fortunately, in 2017, WHO said Kenya is now free of neonatal tetanus, and they left our country. But they developed this vaccine over a 20-year period of research from 1972 to 1992, and they used that vaccine in South America, and it is possible it has been used in many other African countries. The second reason we cannot trust WHO, Your Excellency, is malaria. UK was able to eradicate malaria in 1921. The US was able to eradicate malaria in 1951. And from 1955, WHO has been working on how Africa can eradicate malaria, and up to today, we still haven't been able to eradicate malaria. And now they have proposed GMO mosquitoes. It seems like it's not enough to to own seed that is going to be used to make our people poor because of GMO seed. Now they are making GMO, they are proposing GMO mosquitoes that apparently will sterilize the natural ones. Now we do not know the extent of damage that that kind of activity would take. But worst of all is that they are proposing vaccination of our children against malaria. Yet malaria is a treatable disease. In fact, the herb that is being used, the trees that are being used to create quinine, which is one of the best medicines, especially where there is resistance, the trees are grown here in Congo. Artemisia afra, Artemisia annua, is a herb that treats malaria just from drinking the tea of the herb. These things are available to us, and with concerted effort, Africa can eradicate malaria without the help of WHO. Now, one of our doctors in Congo wrote a paper that demonstrated how well the Artemisia tea worked and compared it to conventional medicine, and even demonstrated it works better than conventional medicine. And 2 years later, his paper was pulled out. It was retracted. We do not need a vaccine for our children to treat for malaria. Then, Your Excellency, WHO also proposes the use of the HPV vaccine to prevent cancer of the cervix amongst our children. We are supposed to inject our girls from the age of 10 with a vaccine called human papilloma HPV vaccine. Now, that vaccine is being said to be a vaccine for preventing cancer of the cervix. Your Excellency, that vaccine is for a sexually transmitted disease called human papilloma virus disease. It is not for cancer. Now, any virgin, whether male or female, is not at risk of getting HPV. And it is only on the first sexual experience that there is a risk that one could get this disease. And if a woman got this disease and got sick with HPV, over 90% of them, their natural immunity destroy the virus and she doesn't need any treatment from anyone. A small group of 1 to 10% will develop persistent disease. And this persistent disease, undetected for 15 to 20 years, is the only time it would give them a risk of cancer. And Europe and America were able to reduce deaths from cancer of the cervix to negligible levels by only popularizing a test called the pap smear test among any woman who has ever experienced sexual intercourse. One test done every 3 years.
Your Excellency, WHO has always been an advisory organization. What Dr. Wahome is saying, the new international health regulations that they are pushing will make the decisions by WHO binding to all nations, and that is what we must resist. So if they decided that Uganda needs to have this vaccine, then it will ensure that the vaccine is actually given to all the people, because that is their decision, and those are the health regulations that we are saying should not be passed by the health ministers.
Now, Dr. Wahome has now rang the alarm bell. I have been proudly promoting 13 vaccines in Uganda. Oh, you go and be vaccinated. 13 of them, including the one he's talking about, the one of anti-cervix cancer. So I thank you so much. I want to read that paper. So you are now coming up to fight your wars, because for us we fought ours. We are now in the background of supporting you. Now you take the lead and fight these wars. And I thank you for immunizing me against WHO. Because now you have given me a vaccine. Be careful about WHO.
Video I know share Israel and my coherence video with the Africa Uganda. Na doctor, when you health minister or doctor, and when you are Kenya president, what church and same vaccine or Uganda. You say you are preventing cancer. Not knowing say vaccine no a do no sexually transmitted diseases aduro and the diabetes general hospital ye cancer chese malaria amudi enduro bi aba no so vaccine ye dey prevent e kwa dey say o ma ye mosquito a amudi aba e ba be yes adwuma ni nyina na o kire ndu a e wo Uganda e betumi a yes asasa ya re nyina nempo obi o ha o yes ndui o de call ye no o tro ho sami nyina ye ho bibia na o de call ye no sa paper o tro so ye ho asibia de koma o no mayi fim isanse nya no no mo hia o mo pekọ o mo de vaccine beba e no na papa ya kire mu ni kwan afa so a Uganda ma ebiwu na ebi ntumi wo na malaria ekumom ana papa kire mu Israel
areho samo areho
gese ana ho Uganda president na emi
of abunitase
emi enti pa and minister no advice ben no because as a minister you were there say ka be advice the president say but when to
Ghana has say it me you minister of agriculture no you entrepreneur Africa you minister of agriculture no you entrepreneur
agric minister not that pajaro that is it or that ayimu like I say alfred kwano on ko bi eni that for ma duma be hwe mo perino wa boto ni ma ni wu be bi echofo ya American company follow Joe Biden oba no o say good news pa say the say I had fatumi na be ma de echofo bia e so let's sign ajatum
any
I say book na ya kind of Joe Biden seeks new unilateral powers for WHO chief to declare public health emergency.
What's it?
And authored by Mark Topscott via the Epoch Times.
Only 2 million Nigerian and President Zambo. Only 2 million. Tinubu only 2 million. I just said the WHO focus said I didn't say and ya kan no Mompelobia yes sir
bad impo na I say President Joe Biden
you gonna Mompelobia
yes
or say you say the WHO for now
omo ya nyina ma ye hwe ni nyina so President Joe Biden's administration is pushing amendments to the World Health Organization WHO governing regulation to give Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus unilateral authority to declare a public health emergency in any nation based on whatever evidence he chooses.
A fresh one here.
Any nation. Me pa cha we be bia korutum ye be ade de be ye no me pa cha mo fa de ba kuma korutum ya sa
enum opare korutum let you for yaw
ya abusia mo fa call number no and twanto so ma me na abusiafo no me ni omo eni nkomo. Good afternoon, please. I want to ask if Ghanaians and other Africans can exempt themselves from these programs. From Bright Sekribekwai. But I know the mean to me and say I wish your ministers in pay for the betimi to sana mon. Hello, good afternoon. Please, I want to join your WhatsApp. Okay, yeah, take. What? Therefore, our friend you may do. But obi wala ni so ana. MCR. Na mo the number na to so. Mpacha mo pa number na to so mami. Na. Okay. Good afternoon. You are my elders. Sa number in Islam mama mfre na mo fra min to me emfa. Omo the number atoso mo mfre san. Therefore after about the day so fa kwa afrefi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Obi ni fa kwa afrefi.
Emmanuel is very azan you know. Because it's a connected card Western region.
Yankwai.
Mo kocha popida Michelle papa. Popino, Michelle no also akasa me atsam na asimi mi chopa na mtankoma simi chopa papa papa tenye ko fe ba senya me dia ba situ konkon wa jeya no ba shepa mi e be sange e ne ya de senya mi ade se be ya de ni mi fi to de sini my dear Minia, quotation no one chat, more threaten a bizarre baby. As if the way of day, you better do and so to do nature, and show me a home battery. You look at it for 10. But I don't know what I can do to pass one come.
Yeah, that's
what can you say? I saw for our car. This is an area. You Proverbs 13, verse 20. I think I'm saying about you said you come to market and other stuff. What you want to catch in that, I think I'm about one to the double. Yeah, I'm sure. No, somebody. That's a papa.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, that's it. Good afternoon, all my elders. I'm Edward Emisa, watching you from Taprade. Please, I want to. Good afternoon, brother. First of all, we didn't papa. Madam Wase, some of you know so. Otiene ho. Wafa, you are great. From therefore, we didn't papa. Good afternoon.
Masa, better asamna omokano. Good afternoon.
Meet you up, but until TV no name meaning komo. Jumu TV no nakara.
Asama na me kan say. Enko no. But me dey franken koma, kasa from me ai asama mo kan TV dey you da masipa. What na me ma ngobi. Because you can hear cause for Ghana, because we said what I feel for you. Everyone will come down for bar. And to make some of them more answer. They in Chimana, I walk a channel. And things that you're more kind of a correct. My batch in this will be a bar. And to me, I'm the clear. Because I'm working and before. I thought it, now you need to come here and before more than women and not been away. Yes, also the idea. I don't know what before. Papa, you know, Mamma, I'm going to tell you, and Mamma, tell you, Mamma, dear, anymore, Madam.
Yes, that's it. Anyone who December or the Abba. Good morning. I say good morning. Shalom. My name is Gideon Ohini Eje from Suhum. Mr. Kumi, so do these people know that there is supreme being? I'm saying, Makai, sir. Therefore, we didn't have a Fefi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There was some people watching the few Kumati.
Young Pai.
Maybe I'm talking to program every Sunday. Now, we're going to so all the other Wake Up Africa. If you're doing out and I'm down, I'm not going to watch it. And on the card, we say, okay, and fashion Africans before you're parking time. I was on the other with the two I require. I'm not sure I'm going to request after because over the time and everybody African to be the community. I'm not the last one, but about me. But I'm not going to family.
That's it. Also, it is true that COVID did not come to Ghana. An angel of God revealed to me. Clement Opoku sometimes. Hello? We didn't have a call, Fefi.
Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
I'm going to say,
about the Adam. One of the same. Boss, one of the same. I'm Lipopo from Benue Krum. God bless Wafa. You. Yeah, Joe Soja. Why, but Fakwa Fefi, we didn't Fakwa Fefi. We didn't Fakwa Fefi. Yeah, one of the same, Yanko. Yeah, that's it.
And they had to palm with the more mind and amazing and penny for a beer will be some on the ceremony. We didn't come on to some of them to come with the medical thing which was safe. There will be the asked me if you are very a chunk of $19 the cool town just degree. And I'm also a man of the Delphi. I make a presence to one of the questions. So I'm going to call the Delphi home, the Libya, when you can call almost other simply. And now you could read the Delphi, as you know to Musa, about them on my own. ọdọ mo tena ni kuro no buso nsia na wa ma omo akọwo ni pa no bi omo akọyi ni pa no bi aye test me dia ya ye ni mo na na won sa kan ye na ye buso ni nsenchi so mo check fa nkwala ni bi na so ha bi ama ona kwa na mo ko ni pe ni ba ta fa mo so di ki ta nti omo ko ni e su pu fo ha ma ko 6000 na mo sa ampan ye no ebi buso ni so mo ko check yo mo ni 3000 enya HIV/AIDS
Bani tofa mayen wa.
Ni ba ta say.
Bani tofa mayen.
Okay. Emma ya na fi susu ku adopta fwa omo fi hon be wo sampanye ni na America president fi hon na ya be fi share ne mala se on be say between the man akọ o man fo so kana say abrani say ni ana bi bi so man fo mu aba ne man mu bi.
Ya da say.
Emo mu ye ku Etia the Delphia say nanka omo be ku na so no mo to on to omo trap bi emu. Nti okoba tu mintu no.
Ya da say. Eno wa no disem. Say won time ni nyina no ofa emoyen. Good afternoon. Therefore we didn't fa kwa ofrefi.
Hello.
Hello, we didn't fa kwa ofrefi.
Yeah, me can say. I talk I do have.
One disem.
Yeah, many different say we are looking in the market. The moment no many different the moment quite the faso. Cause me to make any but quite the faso.
Yo, one disem no but yate your number betu dwa na wafre na fe. Good afternoon. Great work. Keep on with the truth. Visitors here baso so manya na oyoko yaka eho asem time no 10 a.m. sharp then you know new life school oyoko enti mombo mo mpacho ebia na ase service station open ho nyanu bia abefre 0244 549107 0244 549107 number obetimi afre se bia open nyanu bia fa dwuma bia ye bi ye ho opase mbisa bia 0244 686557 0244 686557 aha ana brebe ma yakwan ema yade dwumadi ni nyina aba awiye empanifo a eka mensa ene ma omudi agwa ma yade dwumadi esomo eye wo fa ya poku dankwa a oye executive director edema eku FM Freedom Mind Movement ono ne ba Israel Nkrumah a ono so eye national coordinator edema eku FM Freedom Mind Movement ene asema na da promoting no eye the bloodshed efa Jesuits ho yawie the health no of asebe bedom kakra na yesi economic nene ena mpanyifo ne dia ho ye nyina no atudwa no me a me di dwuma die mu tia me di ene Kofi Kumi nakra da sene ye besan